welcome to the Reel McCoy. I'm your host, Mephisto, and always with me, my hetero life mate. All my feelings. How are you, sir?
Good. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. What is the Reel McCoy, you might ask? Your Reel McCoy is your weekly movie podcast where we ask you to go to watch a movie. You watch it, come back to us, and we break it down, geek out on it just for you guys and for us, actually, because I was, like I said backstage, I'm just kind of enjoying this little shindig that we do every single week.
Yep.
Kind of having fun with it and kind of enjoying the fact that I have new takes on old movies where just rewatching them, being older, being wiser, I would say, kind of gives me the old jibbity jibs about what I love about movies. Yes, I said jibbity jibs. Shut the fuck up. I can see your... Never mind. Anyway, we are in the middle of a midlife crisis because I just turned 44. Yes, I turned
older than
44.
dirt.
Yes, I turned 44 a couple of days ago. Had a nice little dinner with the wife today because going out on a Thursday evening kind of sucks, at least for old people like us. Because we went for the early birds dinner. Not really. But during this...
Well, I mean, you are getting to the age where that's like, oh, well, we're going to go for the early bird special.
Yeah, exactly. So during this midlife crisis month, we're kind of covering all the movies that kind of revolve around that sort of subject. And for that, we have a special one, Sideways, with directed by Alexander Payne, starring Paul Giamatti and Thomas Haden Church. That's it. Which he will always be the mechanic from Wings.
From Wings. I know, right? It's just like, if you grew up in that era and you watch Wings, like, that's the dude from Wings.
Yeah, exactly. That's the dude from Wings. He will always be the dude from Wings for me. Watched it, like I told you, kind of late. I usually watch it in the midweek. Watched it Friday evening and had a great time with it. I actually had a great time with it. Had some new takes, new stuff with it. How many times you watch it this week?
3 times.
3 times?
Yeah.
Wow.
Had to go back and just make some mockery of some of the notes that Miles said for some of the things. One big note is going to be about his prize bottle, but we'll talk about that when we get to the point, because it's really funny because it's like
from what I know about wines, I agree. Anyway, in order to dive into this thing, we first, if you want to interact with me, you want to interact with the show, Twitter @Mephisto, Instagram Mephisto79, and email the Reel McCoy podcast @gmail.com. This is a place for you to send suggestions, whatever you want to send me, just send it to me there. It will be answered. And in order to start off with a bang, with a biggity bang, we'll do our behind the screens.
Action, take 2.
Behind the screens is where we turn to all my feelings, get the lowdown on behind the screens, behind the scenes, behind the production, all that good stuff. Take it away, sir.
So first up for box office information, $16 million budget, which is pretty high for what really appears to be more of an independent film more than anything else. Because if you look at it, it's like, besides some of the gorgeous shots, let's talk about the cinematography in this film is fucking amazing.
Yep.
But $109.7 million gross.
Oof,
it did
a lot.
It did pretty well for itself. Speaking of how well it did, after the film's real big push, release, and then the Oscar buzz that it got, sales for Pinot Noir experienced a 20% increase across the board.
In California or the U.S.?
The world.
The world. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big impact.
And sales of Merlot dropped by 15%.
Damn. That's a lot. Okay.
Yes. The novel actually went unpublished until Alexander Payne actually bought the rights to the film.
Okay.
Then it actually got released as the novel 3 months before the initial film debut.
Oh, it got boosted to hell, probably.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
During his audition to play Jack, Thomas Hayden Church actually stripped naked
Okay.
because of
For
the one scene
yeah. Okay.
to prove that he would do it. He was the only actor that actually did that during the audition, which
Okay.
which makes sense. You typically don't get
Cammy
naked
didn't do
unless you're
it. I'm
asked.
surprised.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of people that were supposed to be in the role, George Clooney actually petitioned to be in the movie to play the role of Jack, but Alexander Payne thought he was too big for the role, and it was going to divert from the real story, which is really it's more about Miles and Jack just kind
Yes.
of along for the
Yeah.
ride. And at one point, they actually wanted to have Robert Downey Jr. and Matt Dillon to play the role of Miles and Jack.
Matt Dillon is Miles
No, Matt Dillon is Jack.
as Jack and
Robert Downey
RDJ as
Jr.
Miles.
Yeah, remember this is before even Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yeah, I know. This is before Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, this is before his big career renaissance, essentially.
Yeah.
The pictures that there are shown with the young Paul Giamatti and an elderly
Mhm.
man and then the married couple when they go to visit his mother.
Yeah.
Those are actual photos of Paul
But
Giamatti's.
spliced with other people.
No, they're actually just
Oh, the whole picture is
yeah.
literally him.
That's Paul
Wow.
Giamatti and his father, and that's his mother and father at their wedding.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is the second film that they brought in just personal photos. The other one was Rules of Attraction.
That's right.
Yeah. So most of the wine in the film was actually non-alcoholic, but it
Would
was
imagine so.
very, very sweet. So it actually made several of the actors ill on set because they had to keep drinking so much of it take after take.
Yeah.
Another funny note is the food that Miles, his mother, and Jack eat during the meal dinner scene
Yeah.
gave all three actors food poisoning.
Okay.
Yeah. At the time of filming, Sandra Oh and Alexander Payne were actually married.
Okay.
Alexander Payne kept pushing to make the scenes more raunchy, more just because that's the character that Stephanie is, and
Yeah.
Jack is a degenerate, right?
Obviously.
They got divorced 3 months after this film was released.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
Many
I mean,
scenes were actually
Sandra Oh
sorry.
is not the sort of being naked type. I mean, she was naked in the Blue Iguana, but I know
Yes.
there's a story kind of behind it where she really didn't want to do it or something. There's a story about it, but
Mhm.
she's not the being naked kind of actress type.
Yeah. So what kind of really interesting note is many of the scenes that were actually in the novel were cut for the film.
Okay.
One was there was a scene where they were supposed to go boar hunting.
What? Boar
Yes.
hunting
Yeah. A trip to Hearst Castle and a hot tub scene.
with all four?
Yes.
Okay.
Then there was also one other scene that was shot but cut because like, well, we don't think that the joke is coming across. It's where Miles runs over a dog.
Yeah. Okay. I
Yeah.
get it.
They're like
The
we get
joke.
Paul no
The
Paul
words.
Giamatti's like the joke was his facial expression and how he reacted to it.
Okay.
That was supposed to be the joke, but they're like, this is just kind of in poor taste. I think we're gonna cut this
Yeah.
out.
I mean, yeah. Never mind.
Yeah.
Like
So
killing a dog and a joke together is not something that I would find funny, but I
yeah.
think a lot of people won't find funny. Cut away.
Yeah. But you can see there's a lot of just this film contains a lot of very black humor. And that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yep.
So it fit in line with the book because there is a big description on the actual look on Miles's face and his reaction to him hitting the dog that works better in the novel and it works better in text than it would in the film.
Wait, let me guess. He hits the dog because they're trying to run over the car, and instead they just ran over some fencing and went down the ditch, right? It was
No,
supposed
it
to be at
was
the end?
no, this was actually when he was getting ready to leave to go to Jack's fiance's house.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
like at the start.
Yeah, the very
Okay.
beginning of the film, yeah. But everything else, all the other notes are actually just sprinkled throughout the film. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Very, very low on detail, but okay. Like we said, kind of talked about this backstage. We'll talk about the subjects, but I want to talk about there's so many to discuss in the specific, like the degeneracy of Jack, Miles' depression, which is something that kind of it's a through line throughout what Miles does throughout the movie,
Yes.
how he
Yeah.
acts with other people, how he acts towards Jack, towards anybody else who has kind of like Maya and everybody else. And it starts off with how he actually gets to go to Jack's place, where it's literally it's intertwined with the credits, which I like because it's not straight up credits and then we start the movie. It kind of like story, a little bit of credits, little story, little credits, and it always into like full on black screen and a white titles,
Mhm.
which you can overlay the story and the titles, but that's how they didn't want to do that, which is good because sometimes you need to do something special. And like you said, and I'll stress this before we actually dive into it. To me, it very much felt like an indie movie from the 90s.
Oh, yes,
You said indie
100%.
movie. I'll
Yeah.
stress it out. I'll say indie movies that is in the 90s era. So
Mhm.
I would put this with Pulp Fiction,
Swingers.
Big Lebowski, Swingers. I know Big Lebowski. I know most of these are not independent, but it has like an independent feel.
Mhm.
Rules of Attraction has that feel. What else? There's lots of these movies in the 90s that had that feel of independent, whether or not they were or not. So Clerks was very much a 90s movie, very much independent movie, but there's more of these in the 90s. Like I
Correct,
again,
yeah.
me and fucking names now. There's lots of these, and it
Well, and
felt like that kind of film, but
well, I
it's
will say
it's made in 2004.
yeah, I will say in so many ways too, the Clerks is a really apt comparison because even with the way the smash cuts with the black the black screen and with text, and
Yep.
then it moves on to a next scene. That's exactly what Sideways does, mirroring Clerks in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's taken literal inspiration from Clerks, but
It's just
that
the style. It's a stylized choice
it's
that was made.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
no, I mean the style of how they construct the movie where
Mhm.
it's you see there's not long lingering shots. There's lots of little moments. Even the drive that Miles does, it's breaking down into moments of the day.
Yeah.
Like it's like I'm just gonna flash a picture on. This is what I'm talking about, where he has that moment where he kind of realized, oh, I need to go out. And then he goes out into the car and all he does is just move it because he's disturbing the constructions that is going on
Yes.
in the building complex. But then when he goes back in, he's like that rush kind of dissipates and he goes back into like his shell. And it takes a while for him to go out. And then he goes and gets him like that coffee and the croissant.
Well, actually, it was he got woken up by his landlord in order to move the car, and when he got
Yeah.
back, he got the call from Jack saying, "Where are you?" And then he's like, "I'm on my way. I'm at the door." Then he goes to the bathroom, takes that long shit while he's reading, takes the shower, bumbles around, gets the espresso and the spinach croissant because he's so pretentious he has to pronounce it croissant.
Yes. And there's a lot of this pretentiousness. That's another little subject. The artsy fartsy way they talk about wine, in a way, especially Miles, and of course Maya, which mirrors Miles in a way.
Mhm.
That's like, it was so annoying at one point.
It gets there. It gets there. The only redemptive quality of that is when they're actually having that conversation about how much they like wine, where they're essentially literally just talking about their own relationships. And
Yes.
yeah, where it's like, okay, I guess the turn is there now. Now it's not just pretentious fluff. Now it's them actually just speaking to their emotions in a subtext. So that
Yes.
works.
Yes,
The one bit though, while he's driving, he's doing the fucking crossword while he's driving. It's like, you son of a bitch.
it's those people who do their makeup while they're driving.
And it's like, you're
You mother.
fucking crazy.
I know you, bitch. I know. I've driven next to you in the morning. You suck.
But we had
But yeah, that the whole move towards, then they go to Jack, and then you kind of get what the sort of power play, what is going on. So it's the rich parents and the daughter who is marrying Jack, and Jack seems to be very much sort of in love and trying to please his parents. And as soon as they hit the car,
it's
and
like,
they
where
go
the
on
fuck
their,
were you, man? We were supposed to be on the road.
like,
And what's interesting too is the fact that the fiance trusts Miles' opinion more than Jack's with the cakes.
yes, with the cake,
Where it's like, you can see they like inherently they know Jack is kind of a fuck up. so
yeah,
like, Miles, we want your opinion.
Yeah, it seems like they trust Miles to ground Jack. So, and
Correct,
they
yeah.
understand Jack is, well, they kind of know he's an actor, so he's already a little bit floopy. But it's very much like, oh, it's Miles, your dependable friend, Miles.
Yeah.
And when they go out to the car, you kind of like, oh, here's the real Jack.
Jack, yeah.
And when they're going out, Miles is still stuck on the plan or whatever they were going for. We're going to get some golf. We're going to go some wine tasting. We're going to go there. We're going to go here. We're going to go there. And Jack is like, I just want to fucking tear it up.
I'm just telling you right now, don't get in my way. Come hell or high water, I'm getting laid this weekend.
Yeah. And Miles seems to not be deterred by this whole idea of like, wait a minute, you're fucking getting married, right?
Well, because he knows Jack. That's the whole thing. He's like, I could see Jack being a scumbag like this.
Yeah.
And oh god, them opening up that bottle of 92 Byron, like, that irked me just because I actually do I like Rieslings and I like champagne. That's the only bit about wines or sparkling wines that I even kind of like, or champagne. Is like, I was like, that's a really good bottle. Son of a bitch.
Yep. Okay. Something just broke. Number one.
Your house is falling apart.
No. Something just broke. Who cares?
Yeah.
And
I love
then
the dichotomy
the
too,
detour.
where Jack is giving the bullshit to Miles, where it's like he's not really his friend. Like it's inherently giving the information that Miles is really the friend in it. Jack is just kind of more there because he knows Miles, and that's it. Especially when he goes like, "Did you read the new revision to my book?" And to be fair, how many fucking pages was that book?
He said
He said no. He said past. He said past page 750. It's all the same. So it's like,
dude,
I know he gives Maya those two books.
Lord of the
Those are,
Rings
boxes
is
of books.
past 750 pages.
I know. I've
Okay.
read like Under the Dome and things like that, and yeah,
I mean, it's really crazy, and it's not fiction. You can sense, generally speaking, by how Miles is talking. And again, I remember this movie, but I don't remember all the like specific details. Rewatching it, I was like, yeah, it seems like Miles is literally wrote his life story, but he's trying to hide it in some sort of way.
that's
And
it.
that kind of tells you a lot about Miles, where his depression, his divorce from Victoria, and we don't know about her getting remarried and everything, but it's like it's really sitting, pressing on his like depression buttons real hard, and that manifests in what he does, and in the entire novel, which 750 pages, and if you've got an editor, why wouldn't it like try to
Be
narrow it
trimmed.
down? And you
Yeah,
think maybe if it's post editing that many pages, like your editor isn't doing a good job, or you're not letting your editor do a job,
yeah.
which is
What's
bad.
also interesting and about that too, just is the fact that you mentioned everything with the depression. And one point that gets brought up later is I think the reason why he is in that state, because uh, Jack brings it up. It's like, are you still seeing your therapist? And like, what pills are you on? Are you still on Xanax and everything? Uh, the other thing is though, it's really was his fault because it mentions the fact that he had an affair. So there is that almost kinship between Jack and Miles on that too, because he goes, yeah, well, what happened with Beverly?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's so weird, because you would expect, at up until the point where they mentioned that Miles had the affair rather than Victoria, it's the fact that you feel sympathy for Miles. If
Hmm.
you're a guy, you don't have to have a divorce, but if you're a guy that was in a relationship that got broken up, it's like you can kind of tell where, in terms of like state of mind, where he is, where he's at, generally speaking, if you didn't have that specific experience, right? And you're like, okay, you've got a friend that you sort of let past the fact that he's going to cheat on his future wife. And then when you find out Miles did the cheating, it was like, oh, that's very interesting. Why would you be in a depression? Because you kind of did that to yourself. Maybe it's
Self
like self-flagellate. No,
flagellation.
flagellation.
Hmm.
It's
No, it's, yeah,
self-flagellation.
yep, mhm.
I got it right. Thank God.
Yeah.
It's like self-flagellation, where you beat yourself off, but you kind of think, why did I do that? I kind of left a good place. Why? It's like, and that question he asks about himself. However, he doesn't ask Jack that. He doesn't say, why do you want this?
He does bring up the fact that he is annoyed and perturbed by his actions, and the fact that like when he starts talking about, hey, we'll move up here, we'll move up to wine country, like, have you lost your fucking mind? Like, we're
Yeah.
we're not moving up here.
And they mention it like a couple of times, but it's like, it seems like a daydream kind of thing. It's like, oh, I wish I could be here, and I'll drive, I'll commute to work. Like, I think Jack says, I'll just, after he fell in love with
Stephanie.
Stephanie. It's like, yeah, I'm in love with her. I'll just live here, and I'll just drive an hour to LA every day. It's like, you're gonna drive to LA? No.
No, yeah,
That's like a
well,
3-hour commute.
yeah,
And I have never driven in LA. I will next year.
yeah. But anyway, you're saying about the detour, just the bit about Miles' mother is really telling about his character, because at the she is so she's essentially like, she reminds me of my own mother so much, where you and I could show up at her front door and she'd be like, well, Well, why didn't you tell me you were coming? Oh, come on in. You boys want something to eat? And you're going to stay the night? Like, that's just my mom. That's just the way she is. But the way that she is
My
so,
mom is not.
well, she is so clearly just caring and nurturing, and she wants to support Miles. She wants to support her kids no matter what. But as soon as his sister is brought up, you can see the turn in Miles. And Miles is
Oh
also
yeah.
kind of acting like a dickhead throughout this entire
I
bit as
mean,
well.
to me, it was just
And
an excuse to go to the bank and
oh
just
yeah, that's what it is.
get
That's
some
that's the
money.
entire reason why they went there, so he could get the money. And
But I
that's
don't
the
think
sad
they
thing.
wanted to be there all night.
No.
I think what they wanted to do, or what it's like, it's my hypothesis is like he wanted to get to the ATM and get some fucking money and just leave after dinner. But it kind of went on, and they had a little bit too much to drink, and they just stayed there.
Yeah. Um and then also the real big sneak away the next morning too is really contingent on that. But what's really funny too is just the clear nature of how caring and nurturing the mother is. When after he steals the money, she just flat out asks him, "Do you need some money?" And she would have given it to him too, without even like no qualms about it.
Yeah, but it's the fact that he was too, let's say he was too proud
Proud,
to get money from,
yeah,
especially it's right after she mentioned his sister. Whereas like he kind of shut everything
shuts up,
down.
yeah.
Yeah, shut everything down. It was like, yeah, it kind of tells us how bad of a state Miles is in, right?
Yeah, exactly. What I
Like
kind of find,
how far and deep into the rabbit hole he actually
yeah.
is.
What's interesting too is Jack's failed acting career and Thomas Hayden Church's up until this point, they mirror each other very much. Because before,
Interesting.
how Thomas Hayden Church was actually had some film roles before this, and also Wings was his big breakout. Then he didn't
Which
have
was the
nothing for a
TV
while,
role.
but
Yeah.
he was doing commercials and he was doing TV commercial voiceovers in the late 90s and early 2000s. But
Really?
he got cast in this, and then he got cast in Spider-Man 3 as a Sandman.
Yep. Yep.
So it's like,
Exactly.
life imitates art.
Well, maybe it was cast just because of like he fit the role because I don't know, sort of he projected something in the audition. I don't know how it works. It's really interesting how things get cast, and just because Ryan Reynolds exists, they do tend to cast people for the role because they have that
They've
specific life experience
Mhm,
and that specific type of way they handle themselves,
mhm.
which fit that director or that casting director's sort of niche.
Well, and also, how many films have we discussed about where the actor had this particular actor in mind from the beginning when they
Yeah.
were reading over the screenplay and they were trying, or the writer was trying to adapt it into a screenplay? It's like, no, I want this actor for the role.
Yeah. I mean, literally last week we talked about this. You were not here. Albert Brooks, who was in This Is 40
Oh
as
yeah,
Paul Rudd's dad, the role was
what a
literally
piece of
written.
shit, by the way.
What?
What a piece of shit, by the way.
I know. The role was literally written for him in that role. Like Judd Apatow wrote it for Albert Brooks before even going to Albert Brooks. When he turned to him, it's like, yeah, Albert Brooks is available. Psst, easy. It's like before that, he did what? The Muse?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was his last film. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, wow, that's
Yeah,
that's a
I know.
little wild there, buddy.
Sometimes I get one fact that you don't remember anymore. It won't happen a lot, I promise. I absolutely promise. You talked about the cinematography, and I want to talk about the setting.
Mhm.
So, I think, if correct me if I'm wrong, there is a sideways tour now
Yeah,
around what we know of Napa Valley,
Like,
wine
yeah.
country, Santa Barbara, that
I
sort of
do
area.
believe there has been one since 2006.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
aware of it. I know it's sort of a because this movie was sort of a phenomenon, right?
It
At the
it really
time,
was.
at the
Yeah.
time, not because of who was in it and the story, but the setting. The Santa Rosa Road, the Santa Barbara kind of there's a specific road I forgot the name of. There's a road that goes through and around Napa Valley that
Yeah.
is now a part of that tour, which you see parts of, not specifically um you don't get to see all the names of the roads, but some of them you do, and it becomes such a nice little backdrop for everything for that movie. Not, it's the grapes, it's the wines, but it's just a little bit more. And hi, Rains, how you doing?
Hey, Rains. So
Mm,
we have that, and again with the beautiful scenery, and we have Miles's bit about Pinot and the color before. And then he
yes.
talks about Chardonnay. He's like, "Well, I thought you hated Chardonnay." He's like, "No, I actually like Chardonnay." And he talks about the difference between Chardonnay and Pinot grapes, and they go into the first wine tasting, where he's actually teaching Jack how to
Yeah.
properly appreciate a wine, how to smell it, checking the color and the clarity, and all
I
the
when I got out of the army, I was like, I'm gonna be a bartender. I went to like a bartender's course.
hmm hmm
Um, I enjoyed it very much, even though at the end of it I was fucking wasted. Like on the last one, on the party at the end of the course, I drank way too much. But one of the funnest classes we had was actually a wine class where they got someone from a local winery to do the class, and everything that Miles talked about, it was on that course. It's
hmm
like how to taste a wine, how to get everything. Now, you can do the same thing with aged whiskey, bourbon, aged anything that is alcoholic. But
correct.
in wine is specifically that. It's very, very, you know, whoever tastes wine, who goes and does whatever Miles shows you, it's very high end. It's like people who can taste the difference between a good Pinot and a bad Pinot. Like for most people would be like Jack. It's like, I like it, it's good, or I don't like it, it's bad, it's disgusting.
Well, the other thing too is Miles' entire spiel, and at the end, Jack just goes, "Yeah, strawberries, definitely." And then he looks over. Are you chewing gum?
Yeah. Which if you ever been to a wine tasting where they kind of guided you into it, even for like 5 minutes, kind of the first thing they tell you is don't have anything to eat. If you have a gum, throw it away and have a big tall glass of water before you start any wine tasting, because otherwise it will
It'll
ruin
throw off
your
your
palate.
palate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we have after that, just they check into the hotel and they walk to the hitching post. And
Exactly.
during their walk there, they have Jack shares his trepidations about getting married. Um,
Yeah.
and also the fact that how Christine's father wants to bring him into the family business, and uh, how what essentially he wants to do is join the family business for some stability, but still keep his acting gig on the side. Where it's like that's where he's always waffling. He's always just 1 foot in, but 1 foot out the door.
Yeah, but it's very much it tells you a lot about how
His
Jack,
character, yeah.
yeah, how his character is, and it shows for the entire movie. I think Jack has the least character growth in this entire movie. He's
Oh
the
yeah,
same at the start and at the finish because you know what you get with Jack.
yeah. But then we have everything with Maya, and especially how when Miles walks into the hitching post, everyone, to me, just got this. Just I wanted to hear that. Da, 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 da,
What?
cheers.
Oh,
because everybody knows his name.
that thing completely went off my head. Like,
Just, yeah.
yep.
I noticed.
I didn't even think about Cheers, actually.
Yeah.
Just because it's in Cheers is more in and around beer with your friends rather than wine. And here is not, it's a wine bar. It's, you don't see anybody with a like a whiskey glass or anything or a cocktail.
Which is so odd too, because at the sign on the hitching post always just advertises cocktails on the bottom.
Exactly. That's what I was saying.
But
It
nobody's.
looks like it's a regular bar, but when you sit down and thing,
And actually, if you look
every
at the
single
back of the
glass.
racking, on the back of the racking too, it's all wine.
Yeah.
So
And when they talk to the bartender, he's like, what do you have? And he takes out 2 wine glasses.
Mhm.
He's not even thinking about any other glass, because why would you be in Napa Valley and not drink wine? Especially in the windmill.
And then you have Jack immediately, because he already was kind of showed his true colors before, and then also with the first waitress who was, it's like, she's like a teenager,
Yeah.
and with then he's the one who's pointing out Maya.
Yeah, but he's thinking for himself.
Yeah.
But when everything kind of ends and they're sitting at the bar and he has that little conversation with Maya, he realizes, oh, this is not for me. This is for Maya.
Because he goes, that's what I'm going to get you for the best man gift. I'm not going to get you a penknife or anything. I'm going to get you laid.
Yeah, and this is where he
what was the other lines he said? He said, you need to get your joint worked on. You need to get your bones smooched. Couldn't you imagine that cozy box on your Johnson?
And this is
Jack.
like after this moment with Maya, Jack already has the quest for himself, but now he also have a side quest. Yes, I said it.
Yes.
A side quest for Miles to get his dick waxed. That's it. He is determined to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to continue with the movie, we will do a little segment called Missing Marquee. Missing Marquee is where we take 10 posters of movies, have their text written off, and of course, we display them, and Oh My Feelings will have to guess which movie this is. And of course, chat participation is most welcome. Go. It's an easy one today. Let's go.
Oh, God. I just forgot about it.
Think, Tommy Boy, channel it, and you'll know the answer. It's Dudley Moore.
I know it's Dudley Moore, and Arthur?
No, the other one.
Fletch.
No, the other one. I'll
Fletch.
say the name of the actress and you'll know.
Bo
Derek.
Oh, 10.
Exactly. It's a 10.
Is that Bullet?
Bullet is correct.
That's the Cowboy Bebop film.
Exactly.
Was that just U571?
No, it's the other submarine movie, the earlier one.
It's just the Das Boot.
Das Boot.
Oh, in the Army Now?
No.
Platoon.
No, that's a very different
movie.
Very different one.
I can't remember the name of it now. Is this the one with Goldie Hawn?
Not Private Benjamin. No, good guess though. It had a very long, very well-noted TV series that came out after
MASH?
the movie. That is correct.
Okay. Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler.
The Grand Budapest Hotel.
Correct.
The Aquatic Life with Steve Zissou.
The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
That's a rough one.
So it's like sort of Saving Private Ryan
Yeah.
But on the other side of the world, it came out the same year.
Oh, is that the Iwo Jima film?
No, not the Iwo Jima film. No, same area. It literally came out the same year. Or
Then
this
I
came out in
know.
99.
I don't. Is it We Were Soldiers?
Not We Were Soldiers. Chat
I
is
don't know
very
this one.
quiet today. This is Thin Red Line.
Line. I don't think I've ever seen it. That's The Warriors.
The Warriors is correct. That is it.
I need a
That
little
is it.
coaxing on a couple of those because I'm just like,
I think it stars Sean Penn. Who else? The guy who played Casey from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Warrior Turtles, whatever, from the 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
okay,
That
that's
actor who played Casey is in this, and a few others. The guy that played Outlander is in this.
yeah. I've definitely I've never actually seen a Thin Red Line. No.
People say it's good. I don't think so. I didn't feel it was a good movie.
I think
But
that
it's
the reason
sort of like
why
the same-
everybody remembers Saving Private Ryan and not that film specifically kind of is a telling story.
Well, yeah, it the way that is shot, so how gritty and how like very dark and very real is like Saving Private Ryan. It's the same kind of sort of mirrors the same cinematography, same sort of action, that sort of thing, but on the Pacific side. The story, I couldn't even tell you. I really don't remember. But it's bad.
Yeah.
Right. So after we meet Maya and we have Jack on his sort of quest plus side quest, we meet the two kind of continue their own journey in towards, they have that thing where it's like, oh, we've got a plan for tomorrow. What are we going to do? We're going to go all the way north and drink ourselves south into the same motel.
Yep.
Right. So in one of those places, they go through like loads of these places and they meet Stephanie and
they have the montage. But before that, too, or just on their walk back, what's important is that the fact that Maya was married before. So there's that how Miles and Maya could be in simpatico when it comes to them getting through a divorce.
Yeah, but you get that through Miles telling Jack on what's the deal with her. She was
because when they were walking, it's like her finger sans rock.
Yeah, because Miles, when they were sitting down, was like, yeah, she's wearing a ring and it's to like ward off the people.
Oh yeah, Christine, his wife.
This one's actually married.
Real, yeah. And what's interesting too is they already have Jack setting up the lie for Miles on his behalf that his book is getting published, and that's the real reason why they're up there. Because had they been honest and just said, "Hey, we're actually up here for his bachelor party because he's getting married on Saturday," none of the rest of the film would have happened.
I know. However, you would think maybe Stephanie would have gone through it. I don't know, because they establish it real quick that Maya and Stephanie kind of know each other.
Yeah,
and feel very comfortable with each other. To like, I don't know if they're like girlfriends or anything, but they feel comfortable on. You can because you can see when they're in Stephanie's house, Maya kind of knows her way around.
Yeah, because she walked right into
there
where. Yeah, she walked right into her wine fridge and was going through the bottles,
and she
knows she knew exactly
there.
where it was. Yeah,
she knows what's there, where it was, all that stuff. And you can tell just by this picture on how confident and degenerate Jack is, and how subdued and like, I don't want to be here, Miles. Right?
Yep. What's interesting too is just it's an important note here, and he says a line about another wine later here where Stephanie pours him there's a tasting of the Cabernet Franc that won the silver medal at Paso Robles. He spits it out and goes, "No, I don't really much I've never been impressed by much by Cab Franc, so. And then she gives him a big pour of what the wine that Miles actually liked,
Yeah.
and then it like makes that flirty little comment to Jack, where it's like immediately like they had it already going. It's like,
Yeah.
you're naughty. Like, I know I need to be spanked, and walks away, and she kind of just pats her ass on as she walks away.
I mean, Sandra Oh does a great job of
Yes.
conveying what her character is thinking without too much talking about it. It's like, it's so subtle, but you immediately kind of catch on. She is into Jack
Mhm.
almost immediately,
Yeah.
where you would think that it's like, well, you just met the guy. It's like, you're going to go through it. It's all right, cool, I guess. You have that little montage of Miles kind of admiring.
Oh, this is when before this they have a little side detour where
Yeah,
Jack
where
tells Miles that Victoria is getting remarried, and
yeah,
that they
because
had been
Miles
talking, and the fact that she was going to come to the wedding and everything, and then
and he
Miles
tells her
runs
that
off with the bottle.
yeah, exactly. But the setting is, this is where I went with Victoria, blah blah blah, and then Jack is like, "Look, you gotta realize this is it. She's coming to the wedding, all that stuff," and Miles just goes crazy, and then on. Because there's a moment in the room where Jack kind of sets up that double date, and Miles is like out of it. He's watching golf. He doesn't want to leave the room. He doesn't want to go through with it. But Jack kind of forces him to do it.
Well, yeah, because he falls asleep, and it's because Jack goes to the pool to swim, and he falls asleep watching golf. He wakes up to the sound of this man spraying way too much aerosol deodorant on himself. It reminds
Exactly.
me of like a 15-year-old kid with his first like can of Axe body spray. Just
A little too much.
yes.
The ladies will not magnetize themselves to you. Axe is literally telling you a lie.
No,
The
in fact,
thing
if anything, it's actually like a mosquito repellent, except for ladies.
the the I didn't appreciate this the first time I saw it, but now I appreciate it even more. That little conversation,
Jesus,
that
no Merlot. I'm
the-
not drinking any fucking Merlot.
yeah, the way that they're going in, and Jack kind of pulls him aside and is like, "Look,
You're not ruining
please,
this for me.
yeah,
You're not
don't ruin
ruining.
this."
Don't go back into your dark, depressive self like
Yeah,
you usually do. Yeah.
which kind of tells us a lot about Miles and how Jack really knows Miles in terms of how he acts, not necessarily his life, his work, whatever. Not like it was like, yeah, I've read your book. No, he actually knows he is a downer. Let's just say that he's a downer. It's like, dude, just listen to me. You have to do this. I need to get my carrot polished, okay? And it was like, do this. It's like, yeah, but I'm not drinking any Merlot. Kind of broke. I literally laughed hard.
Hard. Yeah.
I
It makes
was
you laugh out loud.
I
Yeah.
was afraid my wife would, or one of my kids would waken up. I was laughing so hard because it's a throwaway line.
Wide. It's
but
so great that everybody remembers it. And that's why I mentioned the fact in the behind the screen segment. That's why Merlot sales actually dropped, was because of this movie. Because of that one little line.
it's so crazy. It's really that crazy.
But
And
everything
then they
with
have that
the
weird, not weird, but they have that sort of genuine kind of double date, and Jack can tell Miles is drinking
like he's
a
going
little bit too much, where you can see, like, I don't have it in this shot. We can see like Miles is trying to pour, and Jack has that little, okay, enough, you've had enough, without actually saying, dude, you've had enough.
yeah.
And then, of course, because it's the same day that Jack told him about Victoria, he goes out and he does the old
Well, I guess it's like, did you
drink
did
and
you drink and
dial.
dial? Because that's
Yeah,
what
the drink
even
and dial.
Jack calls it. But before that, I just wanted to mention just a quick interlude there. You know,
Sure.
the dialogue that they had where they're just making quips back and forth to each other,
Mm.
all improvised.
Oh, I was going to ask you about this
Yeah.
because last week, I kind of, from my own research, I realized, oh, Judd Apatow wrote the script, but he generally said, I'm getting like top-notch comedic actors. I want them to ad-lib as much as possible. You've
Yep.
got the line, but you need to ad-lib. How much of this entire movie was ad-libbed?
Not a lot of it, to be fair.
Not a lot.
The big one is the dinner scene. That's the real big one. And some of the minor little notes that Paul Giamatti mentions about certain kinds of wine on
Mhm.
tours and stuff like that, he just made up.
Nice. Okay. Okay. So the dinner where they're sitting down, it kind of like it's there, but there are some close-up shots, and you can kind of tell Miles is literally slipping
Oh yeah,
deeper into
deeper
that
and deeper.
depression. And I was like, oh, he
No,
is
that call
hurting.
to Victoria is just fucking heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, you are not in a good place, and you do not need to be here. This is the last place, and
And you
the second to
now
last thing
be
you need to be doing drinking.
yeah,
Yeah,
drinking and or taking Xanax and drinking, which is very bad.
it's not a good
It's
combination.
very bad. Just ask Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, but then they have so then we have probably my second favorite scene that always gets me just because how fucking weird it is.
Mm.
When they get back to the table, it's like, oh well, how about maybe we like what about dessert? Because the ladies go to the restroom, they come back. Jack has that conversation with them, like, "Hey, you need to dial it down. You're getting drunk. You're getting like, did you drink and dial and everything?" But when the ladies come back, he asks about dessert, and they go, "Well, how about we go back to my place?" Then Thomas Hayden Church, I don't know where this came from, where he goes, "Hey, rare." It fucking gets me every single time he does it. I'm like, this is the dumbest reaction I've ever heard.
Yeah, but it kind of tells you, oh, it's the rare of we know what's gonna
What's going on?
what's gonna
Yeah.
go down when we get to
Yeah.
the house. And like we said, Maya, we know from just the interaction in Stephanie's house how close she is to Stephanie, where she's like, she knows where it is. And now you can mention everything about the Chablis 61.
No, it's the 1961. It's the Chateau Cheval Blanc, and
Okay.
what they were having before is I was just really surprised because she actually had a Richebourg in her collection, that's a really good bottle of wine.
Yeah, even
But
I know that.
but that 1961, well, anything by the Chateau Cheval Blanc, that's actually a mix of Merlot and Cabernet Franc grapes. Two
Really?
wines that he said that he hated.
That's interesting. By the way, side note, most wines go bad after about 15 years. That's what I was taught.
It depends.
Only
Yeah.
only when it's a specific year
Year. Yeah.
that can hold for a very long time. And also, because wine is not like whiskey. You can't have wine past a certain amount of age, even when it's like superb vintage.
Yes, because what all it does is it actually just becomes essentially very expensive vinegar. Because that's
Yeah.
exactly what happens. That's why if you have a bottle of vermouth, if anybody who's out there who is trying to be a mixologist or anything, if you don't chill your vermouth, throw it away after 3 months because it's gonna go bad
It's
and it's gonna
done.
make
It's
everything
over.
just taste awful. Yeah.
I found out the hard way.
Yeah, I think everybody does find out the hard way one time or another where it goes like, oh God, this is
Yeah.
this is the
Why
worst
is it-
Manhattan I've ever had.
Yeah. Why is this Manhattan so bad? Why is this fucking I don't know, sweet vermouth on a rocks with a twist so evil? That's the
It's
reason.
like, yeah, it's like you're just drinking vinegar at that
Yeah.
point.
So I don't know if a 61, it's like it's 2004. I don't know, 40 years almost.
That's actually where it actually was peaking. So they actually did do their homework at the time. And if you notice too, that this is actually when it's taking place is not 2004.
Okay.
Because if you notice at one point in time when in the motel room, they're watching MTV and it's clearly a thing from the 90s.
I was thinking about the golf thing was really old, but I couldn't tell if it's like a live event or pre-recorded
Yeah.
because it seems like it's in the old way of showing golf in terms of
Yeah.
the overlay.
And that's the whole thing where they're trying to set the scene where essentially this film in a lot of ways is kind of timeless, except for again mentioning the 1961 and how it was going to peak at that time. Where now that bottle would be so bad you wouldn't want to
Yeah.
even go anywhere near it. But there are 1982 like I actually just did a search to see like what the most expensive bottle out there. I think it's a 1982, and there is actually a 1941 because the 41 year was so good for them. Now I know this is during the war, but they still ever to produce some at the time. But that
I,
41 that's peaking right now. But that 41 bottle's like $24,000.
yeah, I don't get me wrong. Generally speaking, you can get wines that are 40, 50, 60, even a little bit more, but it's has to be stored in a specific
Specific way,
way.
yeah.
It's so delicate. It's so unforgiving
Yeah.
that you can ruin something just by taking it out of your cellar, exposing it for 2 minutes or even less to
Sunlight, yeah.
sunlight, and it's
And it's
done.
yeah.
It's just done. It's so weird about that. So when, of course, Stephanie and Jack
They're doing their own
retire,
thing, but we have
exactly.
the bit with Maya just mentioned like mentioning how sharp her palate is, about how she's going to school
She,
for horticulture.
horticulture.
And then also he mentions his book about reading it, and that's another line that always makes me laugh out loud. Like the day after yesterday, and she goes, "You mean today?"
Yeah, I
And
was like,
it just makes it go, "Yeah, yeah."
it's a joke.
I know.
Today it's a joke about the day after yesterday, the movie.
Oh, you mean the day after tomorrow? Which
day
actually,
after
no,
tomorrow.
South Park actually already they did that joke in that season, where it's like
Yes.
it's the day after it's the day after yesterday. Well, that's today.
Yeah. But here you get a lot of like sort of an exposition dump about who is Maya, where is she coming from, marital status, where she's looking towards in the future.
Mhm.
And in terms of viewer, you're like, oh, this is just the perfect woman for Miles.
Oh yeah, they're so in simpatico, especially like she mentions how sharp her palate is, and he mentioned before how he was really into his ex-wife because of how sharp of a palate that she had, and also with how she describes wine. She describes wine with such an adoration that
Yeah.
mimics exactly the way that Miles feels. And I love how she has that great line about it, like, oh, it tastes so fucking good. And she puts her hand on
Her
his,
hand on his.
and then he goes, well, I like other wines too.
Yeah.
After his big spiel about Pinot, it was so great. Where it's like this guy has he's completely out of his depth right now.
Yeah. And I was like, I was waiting for him. Because I couldn't remember each and every line. It's like, I was waiting for him to say, like, I kind of like Merlot or I kind of like Cabernet Franc.
Yeah.
You were so close. And then the fact that he kind of stops her and gives her the manuscript.
Oh well, no. Remember when he goes into the bathroom, he washes his face and goes, "You're a fucking idiot," and he goes in and he kisses her.
Yes.
In the kitchen, and that's a big where it's the turn point for Miles, where he's starting to to really kind of become who he used to be, to break out of this depressed state that he has been stuck in since his divorce.
Yeah.
And then when he gives Maya the boxes for his
Not
manuscript,
the box, the boxes.
it's
And
like,
you're like, oh,
dude,
this looks like more than 750 pages.
that so later that's I think it's the next morning when Jack comes back
Yeah.
to the motel. He's bragging about how he got laid, essentially.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you should really call your fiance. He's like, you should check your messages.
Yeah, because she was
The
calling
cell
him
phone
on
and
on the like cell phone, and she left
the
messages
motel.
on the regular like landline.
And he's like, it's like, no, you call her right now. What are you, my mom?
It's like, no, but it's like Miles doesn't really want to go into like this web of lies. Plus, he doesn't really give a shit.
Well, also
But
they were
he
supposed to
still
go,
wants to
well,
protect Jack.
protect Jack, but also they had all these plans made out. They were supposed to go golfing that day. They go golfing later, but he's like, oh well, no, here's go play 9 holes. It's on me. Then he goes. He eventually ends up leaving because he gives it the blow off excuse. Well, I tried calling her, got her voicemail, left her a message. It's fine.
Yeah,
Then he
I'm
goes
all
on
clear.
the hiking trip with Stephanie. So Miles is on his own. Then he
And
goes to where
yeah,
well,
when
he
he
goes
like
sorry.
he was doing his thing, and then he sits down at the I think he's at the not at the windmill. He's at some sort of bar. I don't know. Maybe it's the outside of the motel, and they kind of meet back up.
Yeah.
And Jack goes in like, oh, I love her, and then where he mentioned the whole.
No, he's talking
Whole-
about there's like I'm thinking about postponing the wedding. He talks about that first, where he goes, well, and I know people are gonna say it's a bad idea, right? I was like, are you fucking crazy? It's like, well, if you think about it, I'm thinking of Christine's feelings too.
Yeah, no, you're not.
Jack, you piece of shit.
It's like, no, you're not. You piece of shit.
And then his whole plan about like they'll buy a winery, Miles with his knowledge, they can make the perfect wine together, and you can live up here and all this shit.
And
It's all this flight of fancy out of nowhere.
yeah, to me, it's like sort of like a kid doing like sort of a fantasy thing. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
we'll just move up here. You'll open up a vineyard. I'll be with Stephanie. I'll just commute. I'll do
Yeah.
some voice acting, blah, blah, blah. It's fine. It's okay. It's like, no, there's a lot of stuff that you
There's a
have to
lot
do
of
because-
logistics you're not considering here.
yeah, because you're an adult, not a kid, but he talks like he's not an enlightened, either not mature or not an adult, because it's a big old
Well, he's-
fantasy.
He is. He's acting like a teenage boy. He's acting like well, you know how when you were young, the first time you're in love with someone, you figure that this is the way it's going to be. I'm going to be with this person forever. I can already imagine our entire lives together, even though you've only been with them for a couple of months at most. And you're like, I've got this roadmap in my mind, and you have no idea. You have no general concept. Jack has this idea in his head, but he's in his 40s.
Yep, but he's sort of acting like a 20-year-old ish,
In a way.
21-year-old,
He's acting like a college kid.
a college kid, exactly.
Because he
like
keeps
you
saying,
said.
well, this is just, we're just out here to party, man.
And he keeps reminding Miles as well. It's like, however, the thing is, with Stephanie's daughter, he's acting like a father.
Father, yeah. And this is super weird too, by the way.
To me, it was so off because on the one hand, he's like a child. On the other hand, he's being very responsible with this kid he barely knows.
Oh, and also, no, what's also really, really super fucking weird, and I put this on Stephanie, how they're like, oh, by the way, I've known this man for a day, and I'm going to introduce you to my mother and my child. What?
Not only that, I don't know if you've noticed, but it's stuck in my mind. when Maya is talking to Miles, she kind of mentioned the fact that because Miles is looking and he sees the picture of Stephanie's daughter. It's like, where's the daughter? Yeah, she's at her mom's. She's generally always there at her mom's. It's like, oh, Stephanie's like really irresponsible, like mom.
So in a lot of ways, that's why I think
she's very like Jack, but a female.
That's what I'm
version of
thinking.
Jack.
That's why they got in simpatico so much, because they're both stuck in a state of arrested development.
That's what I was thinking. And then I was thinking, yeah, this whole movie is set up in the way that Jack is dating his mirror image and Miles is generally it's hard to call it dating because it's a span of a week. Generally speaking, Miles is generally dating his mirror female self and Jack is dating his mirror female self. But she is as irresponsible, or in a weird way, irresponsible and responsible as Jack. Because, like I said, it was so off the way that he was acting very responsibly with the daughter, as if he was like a surrogate dad.
Yes.
Which doesn't fit within his character.
The narrative, no.
Yeah.
And then what's is, again, after that we have then the difference where we hear that first bit from him going, I'm going to make sure they get home safe. Because he says the same thing about Cammy later, the waitress at the red place. But then we have moving on from that point, we have basically just a little bit of a montage with Miles where he goes to the convenience store, he buys Skittles, some film, and he's like, can I get a barely legal? And then what's bad is he goes, no, I want the new one.
Yeah. The new one kind of threw me off. I was literally kind of chuckling. It was like, oh. That's right. We're still in the magazine era. Plus.
Yes. And that really does help set the time frame too. The fact that he was, you're buying a porno mag.
I mean, Barely Legal was, I don't know when it started, but I was thinking of more like Girls Gone which started after the 2000s for sure. But
it started in the late 90s. It was the late 90s.
Really?
Yeah. Early 2000s, yeah.
Well, it only came here around 2000s plus.
Yeah, I see that.
Everything gets here late. Anyway, I was like, yeah, this kind of doesn't really fit the thing. But I wasn't even thinking that it is set in a different era than 2004.
Mm-hmm.
I was just not thinking about it.
Just because in rear view now, in retrospect, the concept of time dilation, where it seems as though, if you really think about it, was 1998 that much different than 2004?
Yes, in certain ways, and no in other ways.
Yeah.
I think in terms of film, TV, culture, up until 2005, it was roughly close in ways, but then in 2000s or in late 99 you got, I mean in TV and in terms of culture, you got The Sopranos and Sex and the City, and that was like a big change.
That's a watershed moment. That was really the big hits for HBO, and
that opened up the 2000s. I actually think Sex and the City and Sopranos started in 99, and it sort of the ball kind of got rolling when 2000 hit, and it was like, oh, there's no Y2K, and we continue. And in some things, it kind of stayed sort of like Spider-Man. You can see Spider-Man in 1998 or 97, but it came out 2001.
Yeah.
Right after September 11th, right?
Mm-hmm.
So much so that they had to delete the Twin Towers, from the eyes in one of the posters, right?
Yeah.
You can see that. So in some aspects, yeah, you're still back there. And in some aspects, you're not. Anyway, so Miles goes into the thing. He talks to the same bartender that he talked to before. And for some reason, he doesn't know that Maya is going on class for some reason. That kind of surprised me because they're working together they're not even talking. I that didn't
Yeah,
sit
that
with me
was
well. Sort of
mm,
sort of a writing inconsistency to me. It's like,
I could see that, but in a lot of ways too, when you work with wait staff where you're just like, I don't really know what they're doing.
but the fact that when he drank way
Way
too
too
much to
much. Yeah.
the point where the bartender
It was like,
left with
"Are
him and
you
said,
okay?"
"Why are you okay?" But Miles like, "I'm okay," and he was
He stumbles back.
he's all over the
Well,
place.
and
I'm like,
that too is if you notice too, whenever Miles has some kind of setback or something that triggers that depression in him, what's his first instinct to do?
to drink way too much wine, specifically way too much wine.
Yeah.
And of course, their whole interaction the next day in the golf course. Now, specifically, not a big issue with this. The thing I wanted to talk about is when they were arguing and the next crew wanted to take a shot.
I love this shot because the way that it's set up that way in the book, right? But if you notice how it goes from Paul Giamatti taking a shot and then the ball hitting the other golf cart.
Yeah.
If you notice earlier that giant slice that Giamatti had,
Yeah.
they had to do that pan away because Giamatti was so terrible at playing golf.
Obviously.
Yes.
Obviously. I like the fact that so they had that argument and all they did was return the ball. The other guys had a cart, so they were driving to like get
What reminded me so much of this was I Love You Band, where Jason Segel, you watch your fuckhole, runs after it. Jack just has the club going,
yeah.
rah!
He didn't know what the fuck he was doing. All he knew was
All you do is like,
those
oh,
people
this is
would
gonna be
not-
fun.
Yeah, these people would not fight him in whatsoever because these are like
They're
yuppie,
yuppies.
rich white
They're
people.
yuppies in wine country playing golf. They're not gonna fight you.
Yeah. So all you have to do is it's like
It's like
confronting
facing a bear. Make yourself look real big.
Yeah, exactly. It was like it worked.
Yeah,
It
it works.
actually worked. I want to get. Oh, never mind. I have the cart and then switched over to literally this. I just there's a middle. It's so short. It's to move it on VLC is so weird. Anyway,
The other important bit about that scene on the golf is Miles is starting his irritation with Jack is really starting to show and it's
Yes.
starting to crack the just the exterior where he's trying to play just smiley glad hands with Jack a little bit. And now he's like, okay, now you're really getting on my fucking nerves. Just stop. Stop
Yeah,
pushing me.
But the only way to placate this whole situation is Jack saying, "Well, the girls want to like do another double date, but we're gonna go to Stephanie's again," and that kind of mellows out Miles because he's not thinking about Jack and Stephanie. He's actually thinking about Maya.
Because they have that wonderful day together, like going to the different wineries and stuff. That there was that
No,
one,
that comes actually later.
oh, the book reading was later. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, it comes later, but it comes after this where they have that little moment where they could talk and be done, and then he actually escorts.
I
her.
love the fact they had the clear setup of prior the last time they were at Stephanie's, where Maya takes the left and she specifically says, "You know how to get back to the hotel, right? It's a right, a right, and a left."
Yeah.
So when they go left, you immediately that's the reason why it was shot that way, to show them like, oh, they're going to Maya's before the clear showing them at Maya's. By the way, that's the weirdest thing that he does when he walks up and just puts his hands on the back of her neck, like in the most like offensive manner, not like trying to rub her neck, but like he looks like he's trying to choke her from
Yeah, I
behind at
know.
first. I was like,
it seems kind of weird, but she immediately turns around
Yeah.
and they kind of lock eyes and they kiss. And you're like, oh, okay, it's gonna go down. And then they have this they wake up and they have that little morning thing, and then they just go and have a day in the fields, which mirrors the whole day in the field that they had with Victoria, or she talked about this with Jack before.
Oh yeah,
That
the
place.
perfect day that they had together. Yeah.
And then he mentions, and I got it,
No,
and I
because
can't
she
believe
asked, he's like, "What about the rehearsal dinner? What
the
rehearsal
rehearsal
dinner?"
dinner.
And
And this is where shit hits
it's
the fan.
Yeah.
And she also mentions like, "Oh, you didn't mention this before you fucked me."
There's like, you didn't say this so you could fuck me. It's like,
Yeah, it's like, oh,
it's like,
and now that's how Miles kind of comes off to Miles, like, you really fucked this up, like really did.
well, and he even tells
Not
her
only for Jack, but for yourself.
self. Well, and he ends up telling her that the whole truth too, where the actual relationship between him and Jack was like, I'm not really Jack's friend. I'm just his college freshman roommate.
Yeah,
That's all I am. I'm someone in his life essentially that he hasn't driven away, because you can see how abrasive and obnoxious Jack is. So him pushing everyone else away. So Miles was the only one left who'd be like, yeah, I guess I'll be your best man.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And kind of puts it in. It kind of, when you think about it, in that first conversation in the car, that's why Jack wouldn't have read his book. Because
Yes.
not,
Because
he's a friend, but he's
but
not
he's
that
more of an
kind a friend.
acquaintance. You know, he's an
Yeah.
acquaintance more than anything else.
However, it's so weird that Miles is supposed to be, he is Jack's best man at the wedding. So how many acquaintances does Jack have? He doesn't have any friends. He have only acquaintances because he's
Yeah.
an actor. He puts everything on, like, everything is shallow.
Mhm.
Puts him at that sort of range of life, I guess.
Yeah. And this is the scene too where we have when Miles comes back to the motel, he's like, but who's your daddy? Who's your daddy?
Yeah.
And like,
It's
and the
this
whole
the
bit
first
too, where Jack is being so immature, you're like, you didn't fuck her, did you? You're a homo. And where it's like, yep, that's it, Jack. Write my gay declaration for me.
Yeah, the whole point is when they're talking is like, oh, you didn't score, right? You're a girly man. And
Yeah.
what I was thinking is he is so close to like exploding on him and just telling him off, but he still doesn't do it.
Yeah.
And what it does, it actually hurts Miles in terms of his own psyche, because right after this, they go on that ride and they go into this place where it's very tourist
They
heavy.
go to Frass Canyon, which is so funny because you know what frass is?
No.
It's insect excrement from termites.
Okay.
Yeah.
The thing I was thinking about is like, the one thing that was on my mind was like, this is how vineyards look like after
This movie
came out.
Yes, very, very much so.
And it was like, I couldn't shake the fact that, yeah, they're sort of prophetic in a way, but they didn't realize it. They just needed a place where it was just very tourist heavy. Because you can see the tour bus coming out, and they do mention the fact that in other wineries, I think at the very start of the montage, they do get to talk. Miles get to talk to one of the guys. I'm not sure if it's a guy or a gal. That they mentioned the fact that, oh, the tour bus is going to come later, or it was here today, and it was kind of
it was no,
weird.
it was at the hitching post, because he said it's busy for a Tuesday night. That's when Miles went by himself.
Yeah. That's with somebody mentioned the fact that the tour bus was like heavy and there was lots of people, and then you see the tour bus and this place was like
It's absolutely packed. And this is
It's
when he
corporate
goes,
like, I would say,
yeah, very much
right?
so. Yeah.
And Miles wants that drink, and all he gets is like that
Well,
little
no, because he
taste.
goes out and he calls his agent, and he finally gets the final rejection note, and that's when he goes to. He's like, just give me a full fucking pour. Just give me a full fucking pour. I'll fucking pay for it. And when he says no, she grabs the spit bucket and just. It's the other like big scene that came from the trailer. Was this?
Really, I haven't seen the
Yeah,
trailer.
yeah.
I haven't seen the trailer, but yeah, it's so over the top, but you can feel to me going for that spit bucket is just going to the lowest of the low of the
Yeah.
dregs of what the fuck. It's not tasting wine, is literally getting fucked up. Just I want to get fucked up.
Yep.
And of course, when they get back,
No,
they
then we
face-
have that big their conversation that they have outside.
Oh yeah.
And then what's the first book that he mentions that went unpublished?
It's right before this sentence. I don't remember the
It
name
was
of
the
it.
Confederacy of Dunces that we've talked about a lot. And then
The one that's never gonna be made.
never going to be made. And then they have the excrement line where he mentions like I didn't say that, it was Bukowski. It's like, nope, that actually wasn't Bukowski, that was the author.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it wasn't a Bukowski line.
It was literally quoted from the book that this movie is based on.
Yeah, but in the book he says I think that's a line from Bukowski where it's like, no, it wasn't. That was just the author's writing.
That's cool. Because I was thinking, yeah, I was like, I'm such a shitty writer. I actually stole even lines that I tell you, which
Yeah.
was so apropos of
Oh,
that
yeah, it was
situation.
so fitting.
And like, oh, Miles, no.
Mhm.
What else did you actually steal and put in your book? Maybe that's why it wasn't published. Yeah, I was thinking it. They don't say it, they don't mention it, but I was thinking it. What if he knew he kind of plagiarized from everybody to make it work
You
in
know,
his own life story?
that's an interesting interpretation, because that could it could very much be that in so many ways.
I mean, they don't mention it at all. They, like I said, they kind of allude that the fact that the book is Miles's life story, relationship with his dad, his mom,
Yeah.
his sister, the whole Victoria thing. Maybe that's it. But when they do have that conversation, and he mentioned that sentence of the fact that I kind of stole that sentence. It was like, huh. It kind of weighed on my mind. It wasn't a big thing. And yeah, I might have even imagined it, but I kind of think, well, maybe his whole thing is telling a story, but he's taking Wolf, Plath,
Well, he
Hemingway,
could be
just
mimicking
spice it up.
styles. Yeah, and
I don't know if it's not mimicking science, literally taking.
oh, you mean
bits
actually
and pieces
actually
and
paraphrasing, or just flat out stealing material?
flat out stealing to make his own life story. That's that. Hey, I'm just saying. And then we got the old Stephanie 1-2. She breaks his nose with the helmet.
God, that hurts so fucking bad.
To
be fair, though, he did fucking deserve it. I mean,
oh, he did deserve it.
Yeah, there's no denying that Jack deserved this beating.
Oh yeah.
But I love how after that, when they're in the hot tub, he goes like, Did you tell Maya? You told Maya, and you're like, no, it must have been Gary at the hitching post. Like,
yeah. It's like, when did we mention it to Gary?
He's like, we didn't talk about that. Are you sure you didn't? Because something smells fishy.
Yeah. And I thought Miles would give in at a certain point. He didn't give in. He didn't tell him at all.
No, he never did. He
never did.
To the end of the day, like Jack assumes that it was Maya who, because it was right after that, because it was Miles' defense for himself to Jack saying, well, now you ruined things with Maya for me because what's she going to think about that I'm associating with people like you?
He literally turned it around against Jack. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, wow.
And he does leave Maya that message where he tells her flat out, no, my book is not getting published now. Because that's after he finds out when he's in the ER.
And to me is the fact that she kind of tells him after she gets annoyed. It's like, yeah, I've spent my, we'll call it previous life, or my married life, married to a guy that kept lying to me. And the fact that Miles is like, okay, listen, I'm this, I'm that, this is the situation, blah, blah, blah. He's being completely honest, and you can tell by his voice he's being completely honest, and he doesn't hide anything from her. That's what made her rethink it and call him back.
Well, actually, he ended up writing her a letter too,
Yes.
because she mentions that in the voicemail, which we never see the letter.
We don't see a letter,
No.
but we do hear about the letter in the voicemail. But
yeah,
she got back to him because he was honest. Because I bet you what he told her on the
that, and also the
voicemail,
fact that she read the book too, where the like she got like, holy shit, this guy's just really had it bad.
She was smart enough to piece it together and get to the real Miles rather than hearing the lies about Jack and all that stuff. You know what? It's a good way to stop because it's basically the last bit of the movie. Actually,
the last bit, yeah. Oh boy,
we'll
last bit is a doozy.
Oh yeah, it's downright comedic at some point, but we'll.
Oh yeah. We're gonna get to that because there's some lines in there that are fucking hilarious.
All right, let's do our second segment of the night. It is called Screen Fighter.
Round 1, fight.
Screen Fighter is where we take two movies, pit them together, and see which one is the best one. If there's no discernible difference between the two, both of them are good, both of them are rad, we fall into our criteria, which is Saturday evening, Friday evening, out with the boys, out with the girls, out with your significant other, two movies in a vacuum. Which one will we pop in? This is what I got for you. Pee-wee's Big Adventure or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This one is a hard choice for me.
Yeah, it is for me too.
It is Paul Rubens before we kind of found out he's a bit of a shithead.
Well, a bit of a shithead too, but to be fair, I think that was kind of a big setup because one of my friends put it really in plain concept. It was like, so he got caught masturbating in a porno theater. It's like, what else do you do in a porno theater?
It's not because he was caught in a porno theater. It's the fact that he was a beloved kid's
child
icon.
performer. Yeah, because this is when he had the Pee-wee's Playhouse. Yeah, that was the big thing.
And that was the thing. And today it happened to quite a few Disney princesses and even worse.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Vanessa Hudgens. Yes.
Yeah. I was, I'm thinking, by the way, I love that poster. It looks like basically it's Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yes.
As directed by Quentin Tarantino. Because
I like both of these posters. These are great.
I'm gonna have to go oddly though with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles just because it's that nostalgia bit in me as a kid because I saw that actually in the theaters when I was a child. I loved it so much. Even though have you seen how badly those have held up over the years, the original costumes?
I'm so glad you said so.
Oh my God, they're terrifying.
Considering the fact that I follow Tom on Twitter and Tom is a massive Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles guy. Like let's just say for me, it's Star Wars. For him, it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like comic books, everything.
Wow.
Okay. And he loves this movie. The tirade that he did on their show on Midnight's Edge and the tirade that he did on Twitter is just juicy as fuck. This new, I wasn't aware of it. I didn't even think they would make another one. I've seen the trailer. It's just fucking awful. The animation, just the animation. I mean, put aside the obvious race swap that, you know, I can live with it. The animation is terrible. The story seems awful. So I was like, no, no, not for me. I'm going to go Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because I like tequila, but to a certain point. The Crow or A League of Their Own. We are strong.
A League of Their Own is really good, but it's the Crow, man. It's the fucking Crow. It's gonna be the Crow.
I really want to say the Crow, but I didn't like it.
That's fine.
I didn't like it. I know it was it's such a beloved movie. It has connotations about Brandon Lee and the fact that he died. I want to love it more than A League of Their Own, but I fucking love A League of Their Own. It's
a great film.
Good.
It is.
It's so good. Tom Hanks is underrated.
There's no crying in baseball.
It's just so good. And listen, it's a league of just think about Tom Hanks. Put all the girls aside. Think about Tom Hanks doing League of Their Own. A year after that, Philadelphia. A year after that, Forrest Gump. It's just fucking phenomenal. Phenomenal. I love A League of Their Own. I love the story. I love a good baseball movie. And this is one of the best baseball movies. And to think that a few years before that, we had Field of Dreams as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to click on Crow because our audience is being very quiet today just because of respect to Brandon Lee. Okay. All right. Freaky Friday and Paul.
Oh, Paul, the I would say the only film that had Simon Pegg and Frost together that was categorically a bad film.
Agree. Freaky Friday, though, has Lindsay Lohan in it. And this is 2003. This is coked up to the gills, Lindsay Lohan. And you can tell in this movie.
And this is and they had to do a remake of Freaky Friday. Why? Oh, it's Walt Disney. That's why. People have been acting like, oh, Disney is now just into remaking all of their products. Like they've been doing this for decades. What are you talking about?
Yep. And the other Lindsay Lohan movie that they did was also a remake.
That was Parent Trap, right? Yeah.
Parent Trap was originally made. It was remade so many times. It was made with the Olsen twins. It was made back in the day. The original one was with Heather Mills.
Mills, yeah.
Mills, not Heather. Whatever. And she played both parts as well. Mm-hmm. But it's the first time they had that little split camera thing. Never mind. Yeah, not a new thing for Disney. I'm going to go with Paul, even though I don't like the movie.
Still going to go. Yeah, I would still rather go with Paul.
Haley Mills.
Thank
you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
I'm going to go with Paul. Fucking Seth Rogen's ruined it for me as the alien. I don't like the kind of fucking Seth Rogen thing.
Well, at a certain point, pot humor just gets so. I'm sorry. To me, it's so tiresome and boring. And if I really want to watch a movie about stoners, aliens or not, I'll go watch fucking Cheech and Chong. I mean,
yeah. Still gonna go with Paul.
Yeah.
To me, Paul is like, you know how the U.S. takes a good British comedy and Americanizes it, and it never works.
Never does.
That's what Paul is.
The only instance where it worked is because they deviated from form was The Office. Because
Yeah, but
they
I
didn't
didn't
do a
like the
one
British Office or the American
That's fair.
Office because of the whole it's sort of the fourth wall.
break
We're
stuff.
doing
Yeah.
a reality show, but it's not a reality show kind of thing. I don't like that genre.
Which what I found great. That's specifically about Parks and Rec, because Parks and Rec was a spinoff, a spinoff in just
In a
in
way.
concept alone. Because originally that had the same kind of narrative structure where it was like a documentary style, but
Yeah.
then it became just a sitcom, and that's when Parks and Rec really grew into its own as a series. When they dropped the whole concept of it being a docu-series, essentially.
Okay. All right. So the next pair is Sahara or the remake of The Thing.
Horror fan, I'm always going to go with the remake of The Thing, even though I think it was an unnecessary remake. It was still pretty well done overall.
I'm gonna go with Sahara.
Okay.
It's not a great film, but I'll take Matthew McConaughey for the remake. It's just not a movie I would remake.
I'm in Africa. All right.
Exactly. Chinatown or Misery.
It got some
Damn,
real rough ones in here.
Dude, rough choices. This will be our last kind of our last pairing, but damn, it's either really good movies or really shitty movies. Like Sahara is not a good movie.
No. Nah, not in any way, shape, or form.
Paul says Chinatown.
I'm also gonna have to go with Chinatown. As much as I love Stephen King, I love Misery, but I do think that Misery. I'll put it this way. I think Misery is one of the only true, really great adaptations of a Stephen King novel because it works so well. And it can be because there's no other greater concepts out there. There's no spiritual afterthought ideas or any kind of extraterrestrial influences or monsters or anything in the supernatural in Misery. It's just inherently a story about a psychotic fan, which works so well, and it could be adapted. But it's Chinatown, man. It's fucking Chinatown.
I really want to say Misery because it's fucking great.
Really good. It's really good.
I'm a sucker for the noir detective. I'm
me
sucker
too.
for the noir detective. Sort of like in Chinatown is sort of the epitome of that genre of she walked into my office and she was looking. So it's like that thing that every sort of noir kind of detective story follows is this. Sort of this and I think it's the Maltese Falcon as well, but I'm not sure. I haven't seen it in a while. But Chinatown, for sure.
What's so funny too is there was a show called Californication with David Duchovny that was on there, right? And at one point in time,
watched that show, by the way.
Oh, did you know that when the agent ended up with the porn actress?
Yes.
Do you know what adaptation they were doing? An adaptation of Chinatown.
Really?
It was called
I
Vagina.
didn't notice.
It's called Vaginatown.
I didn't notice. What the hell you say?
Whenever I see anything about Chinatown,
that was great.
It was good until about like the fourth season. Then it just kind of started going like really off the rails.
Well, at that point it was like, okay, which actress is gonna get her tits out?
Pretty much. That's fair.
Hey, I ain't lying.
Yeah.
Right. So the guy got decked. Moving forward. Yeah, yada yada.
They go to the ER, but first, before they go, when they get back from the ER,
they have that lunch. I'm gonna move forward. They have that lunch in I think it was in the windmill. I'm not sure.
Oh, you mean the rib dinner scene?
Yes. Where was that?
No, I was going to say, but before that though, what's interesting is there's the setup of the car crash scene, because when Jack is in the motel, because he looks in the mirror and looks at his face and he's got the bandages and all over his broken nose. All right, what is it like to you? It looks like you've been in a bad car accident, and it's like you could hear the light bulb go ding.
Yes, and
Jack's
to me
head.
it's like, oh, that's a great setup. We'll wait for the payoff.
Yeah, and then we have
payoff. It goes off the rails.
It's great, but we have the dinner,
dinner, and
with the
Jack
and the waitress,
and Jack hits on the waitress, and then she leaves, and Jack is like, "You know how I am."
No, she's like, no, she was like, she looks like 2 tons of fun.
Yeah,
that's what he says. He's a real piece of shit.
Well, she was. Never mind.
But
by the way, I totally forgot there's a nude scene there, and I was like, "Whoa, okay,
yeah, we're gonna get to it."
Yeah, a female and a male. It's like,
yeah,
I forgot this was even
just
happening.
Like, it's just out there, yeah.
Yeah,
it's MC Gainey who plays the guy.
I know. And it's
like,
I know this guy. He's very brave. Let's say that.
But we have after the dinner when Miles is picking his teeth with the toothpick, she goes, "Well, I'm gonna," again mirroring what he said about Stephanie, "I'm gonna make sure she gets home safe." And it's Jack's line in this. He goes, you may be my friend and everything, but you don't understand my plight."
Yes. And this is where it's like, oh shit. Okay, Miles knows what's going on, but he doesn't understand why Jack does it, because he didn't understand at first. So he is still on that sort of level. And then Miles shows up naked.
I mean, Jack
showed up.
Jack
shows up naked.
Up naked. Give me a blanket. It's fucking cold out here. And it's just like, how far did you run? It gives the location. Like, that was 5 clicks. Fucking A, it was 5 clicks. Had to go through an ostrich farm. Those fuckers are mean. And Miles loses it.
Yeah,
at that point, he just starts laughing.
That's actually a nice little payoff to something else. Sort of a payoff, because at the start he talks about, why don't you? They're sitting at the restaurant where they meet Maya Jack meets Maya for the first time. It's like, get the ostrich meat. It's good. It's lean. It's locally grown. I was like,
yeah,
interesting. Comes back around to this where he goes through an ostrich farm.
Yeah.
So they got, by the way, we do have ostrich farms here, and all the meat goes straight to Australia.
That's weird. Okay. But then we have Jack doing the character break where he breaks down like a child. You have to help me, Miles. You have to help me. I have to get the wedding rings back.
Yeah, and the wedding rings are in his wallet at the girl's place.
And I love the fact that he even says the whole bit about the husband coming home. He's supposed to come home at 6. He came home early at 5, and even Miles says, "You kind of close there, weren't you, buddy?"
Yeah.
So, like, did she tell you she was married? Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, they're sitting in the car, and literally Jack said, just go in, and he doesn't say burglarize.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I know my friend was here about an hour ago bowling your wife, but
yeah.
But if I poke around for his wallet, yeah, go with that.
And Miles decides to, instead of knocking on the door, is literally go and burglarize the place. It's like, that's kind of a weird choice to do for a guy that you don't particularly like at the moment.
Yeah.
It's like breaking and entering. And he goes in, he hears a ruckus, because he's looking for the wallet inside the house. It's like,
a ruckus is a word for it. That's
It's the
I was just
YouTube
saying.
safe
I was just
word, I
saying.
would say.
If that room's a rockin', don't come and knock.
Oh, it's rocking all right, because these are not very thin people.
Yes.
It looks like two people I know. Never mind. So they're having the sex, and he realizes, yeah, the wallet is literally in the room. Cut to, he's like, go start the car, start the car, start the car. It's like, and the guy's literally running after him, completely naked.
And that what's interesting about that is during filming, they had to shut down the street
Okay.
so he could run down the street naked and not no one would call it. And so no one would call the cops or anything like that. They ended up paying all of the neighbors in the neighborhood.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, the guy was brave. Let's just say that. I
Yeah.
can't really show that on YouTube though.
No, you can't. No. Just look up MC Gainey and just like, yeah, he was running down the street just buck ass naked.
Buck ass naked, exactly. And full frontal. You don't see him from the back, you see him from the front.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he shouldn't be ashamed of himself. It looks like it was cold. He shouldn't be ashamed of himself. Let's just say that. A little clue about how, like, what time of year, what time it is. If you look, 91, 89, and 87, that's not years. That's the octane.
Yeah.
91 was last sold in like 95 here.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know when this is, but last time 91 was sold was 1995.
Well, also
Here in my
look at
country.
how expensive just that Jeep, because I do believe that is I want to say a 93 or a 94 for like $6,000.
It's 5995.
Yeah.
Weird. Never mind. I didn't even notice that. But I looked at the I'm looking at it now. I didn't notice it before because I was into their conversation. I didn't even look. It's the octane. It's like 87 octane? When was that? I've never even heard about 87 octane ever in my life.
No, like I said, look, it's clearly set up. This is some point in time in the 90s. So
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
So they have that conversation, and then
before while they were driving out, he's like, "Hey, I feel like driving." He's like, "You should get some sleep." He's like, "No, I feel like driving." And then he also says, "You know what? You should invite Maya to the wedding."
Yeah.
It's like, no, just no modicum of tact. Or
no
semblance of just recognition of what the fuck happened over the last couple of days.
Oh, and he specifically said, put on your seat. And as soon as he said,
he says,
put up your seat.
Put on your seatbelt.
Oh, I remember what's happening right now.
Yes.
I remember the movie. It's like, oh shit.
Oh God, what the fuck? And it's the saddest like little car crash noise too.
Yeah. I mean, he dinged the car. It wasn't that hard. But it didn't, and he said it. It's like it doesn't look like it
doesn't look like enough. He goes, and he goes, you smashed a couple of the bottles too because they take all the wine out.
Yeah. And then he puts on the cinder block, which I don't know where they got the cinder.
I was like,
block,
where'd you get a cinder block?
Yeah, because I was expecting like a big rock. It's like a cinder block. What the fuck? Okay,
whatever.
He puts it on, but the car
swerves. It says, Meh. It's like someone needs to get their tires aligned.
They're in a field, dude. It's not like a fucking asphalt, and it goes through a fence and into a fucking ditch. And I was like, how are they gonna get that thing out of the ditch? Cut to their going into his his future wife's parents' driveway.
Parents'
It's like, how do they get that car out of the ditch? Okay, I guess. Wait. And he specifically says to Miles, I'm gonna wait I'm
I'm gonna go in, but you wait.
I'm
And
gonna go
Miles is
in,
like,
you
I
have to
know,
wait.
I know.
Yeah, in order for them to see the damage. Otherwise, it wouldn't be it wouldn't be reliable enough.
Because he even asked, was like, well, what happened to me then? You were smart enough to wear your seatbelt. And you go, say,
Exactly.
thinking.
Exactly. And that's the small little setup and payoffs. It's like, yes, I like this good writing. I like this. It's not overly exaggerated. It's very small little details. If you picked it up, good. If you haven't picked it up, the payoff would instantly put you back on the setup. Instantly. If you didn't pick it up at the moment, it's like, oh, this will lead to this would lead to this, and that's what we get. And also, it kind of harkens to the fact that her parents trust Miles. That's where the scene with the cake comes in. They trust Miles, so if Jack says, like, we had a car crash, blah blah blah, they're going to look at Miles, they're going to look at the car, and they would instantly believe Jack.
Yep.
Like that's his not alibi, but his very strong ironclad alibi. And then you get to see the weddings, Armenian thing, and then he meets.
What's kind of nice though is just at the wedding, despite how inherently just juvenile and misguided and fucked up their friendship is, the way that Jack looks over and looks at Miles, it gives him that little look, where it's like, that's kind of endearing.
Yeah, and sort of like that.
It is like
all has been forgiven. It's like, you forgive me. It's like, I forgive you.
Well, it's almost like too. It's like, we got away with it, didn't we, buddy?
It's sort of like, I got your back, you got mine. Sort of. It felt like all wrapped up in the same head nod. You got clearing up their broken, I would say, friendship or cracked friendship. And we got away with it. And it's like, you got my back, I got yours. We're fine. We'll move on.
You know what's funny though is this is the polar opposite outcome of the other film we watched with the bachelor party gone wrong.
Yep.
Actually, no, the two of the films that were the bachelor parties went wrong.
Which was the other one?
Hangover.
I thought about The Hangover. Which the other one?
Other than Very Bad Things.
Oh, that's correct. That's actually correct. I'm a stupid man. One last sort of tie-in to
this
the past.
This was just like a twist of the knife.
Where I felt bad for Miles because they mentioned the fact that they didn't have kids. I think on the first kind of conversation with that double date with Maya and Stephanie.
Yeah, because that's the one good thing about about my divorce, the fact that there were no kids involved.
Yeah. Exactly. And now she comes in, introduces the new husband, and I can't drink because I'm pregnant. It's like, oh, that's just fucking... The way Miles reacted seems to me, and again, this is my own story in my own head, my interpretation of it. It's like, he wanted the kids, she didn't want the kids.
Yes.
So he went out and cheated on her and sort of caused this rift and this divorce. But he had second thoughts because she was the one that had that good palate. She had the qualities that he was looking for, but he also wanted a family. And maybe that's also in the fucking book. And that's why Maya turned around on him, because it was honest. There was stuff in that book that was really touching her sort of pressure points. And then you see we'll see you at the reception. Everybody goes into one way, and kind of mirroring that that dirt road with Maya,
Outside
where
of
he
Stephanie, yeah.
turned to the left
Mm-hmm.
and just he went home and went to like I think he lived in San Diego, right?
They're in San Diego, yeah.
Yeah. No, Jack is in L.A.
Yeah, no, you're right. Well, he goes home to get his bottle of wine. He runs up and gets his bottle of wine, and he
Yeah,
goes to like some like it looks just like a fast food joint.
yes, I want to get to that. But there's you see him with the kids because you see him out of it just to give us a little.
Oh,
state of mind.
that's after this because it's still into his
Oh,
the
that's right.
tux. Yeah.
That's right. Sort of the same state of mind of this. He not only he's drinking wine with food that sort of wouldn't go together, so pretty greasy, nasty food. By the way, it looks pretty fine to me. But then he drinks this very expensive wine in a fucking styrofoam cup.
Yeah.
And he doesn't smell it. Did you notice he didn't smell it?
Well,
He just
well, it's funny is
drank it.
he does aerate it the second time.
Exactly. He aerates it, but he doesn't smell it. He doesn't gulp it. He drinks it as if it was a glass of wine, but he doesn't do all the like
His tradition.
ritual.
Yes,
yeah, the ritual. And then of course it ends up with
Then we have the scene where it shows Miles teaching and
teaching, but to me
basically
it's
just showing his actual life and how just depressed he really is and how down. And then he gets the message.
He gets
from
the
Maya.
call, and it ends up with him doing the whole knock knock and ending of the movie where
it's completely open-ended. Yeah, you don't know.
You don't see the ending of the story. But and again, it's open to interpretation. To me, Maya accepts him back.
I would have to assume so. We'll never know.
We don't know. We
We'll
don't
never
know.
Yeah,
you don't know. Maybe they had a talk and she realized, yes, I do enjoy the book and I do understand you, but you lied to me. And I appreciate the fact that you come all the way here to that we can have this talk, but it's not going to work.
It's never going to happen. Yeah.
It could go either way. It's open-ended and enjoy it.
Yeah.
It was, like I said, it was, regardless of the fact that it deals with a kind of serious subject of depression, which and I know we love to deal with our depression in certain ways.
Yep.
Because you can empathize with him even if you're not in a depressive state. You can understand where he comes from, because especially at the end, you realize where all the chess pieces are on the board, sort of to say.
Well, it's in so many ways too. You can think of Miles at the beginning of the film as a broken man, and as he's slowly building himself back together, there are these moments where, again, he just starts to fall apart. Again, when he finds out that his ex-wife's getting remarried, then Maya starts to build him back up, and then that ends, and he's starting to fall apart, but he's not there yet. It's then when he finds out about the pregnancy, and then he's back. He's crumbled. He's back to where he started at the beginning of the film.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's wrap things up here neatly with a bow. And then I am off to do something else, sadly, or happily. Yes. I'm a wanted man these days. Actually, truly had a good time watching this especially critically, trying to pick up all the little details of the story that I really didn't pick up the first time I watched this. I had a good time watching it the first time. I had a great time watching it this time around. Enjoying the story, loving to hate Jack and loving to hate the fact that Miles, Jack is right. Just get out of your shell.
Yeah.
And it's like, look at this beautiful woman. Just don't lie to her. And he did all the mistakes possible, which kind of build him back up to have enough confidence to just knock on her door.
Yeah.
Takes?
No, I completely agree. And I think this was a film that I wanted to consider for the previous month under Best Friends
Best
month.
Friends. It could have gone to Best Friends.
It could have that way, but I thought that this was more apropos given the fact that Miles goes on a tirade about how the fact, like, I'm middle-aged, I've made it through half my life, and I have nothing to show for it.
That's exactly what I was going for.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going for. To understand that particular age, that 40 plus, it touches a lot of those moments, and one aspect of those moments. One of them will come also in American Beauty, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
That's more of the actual big crisis where you go through I'm going to change absolutely everything about my life. Right now.
That's a different extreme. And all right, talking about American Beauty, it is going to be this month, but we don't know if it's this week or the following week.
Yeah.
So if you're watching this, if you got to this far, please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. But next week will be either American Beauty or Lost in Translation, which is another different aspect of midlife crisis. All right. Watch them both.
They're both great films, so you're not going to lose anything.
Films. Yeah. That's your homework for this week. And we'll know, and to know what exactly which one, just as soon as I know, I'm going to pull up and you'll see the upcoming on YouTube, and you'll just see it. And on Rumble as well. All right, cool. Remember, if you want to interact with me, want to interact with the show, at Mephisto on Twitter, at Mephisto79 on Instagram, email the Reel McCoy podcast at gmail.com. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, we are also simulcasting on Rumble. If you noticed or haven't noticed, it's going well. It's not going badly. It's going well. So if you don't like YouTube for some reason, and if you want to try the competition, go right ahead. Enjoy that as well. From me, from you, have a good night. Be well.
See you next week.
You're still here? It's over. Go home.